entrepreneur with kingsdreament.com. This channel exists to encourage, empower, inspire you to live out God's dream for your life. I'm very excited because we have a fun conversation planned for you guys. Every Sunday night, we do a live stream with our Patreon community. If you don't know what our Patreon community is, it is the coolest community support system on the internet as far as I'm concerned. Some of the most talented people that I've been able to connect with, and they all come together in this Patreon community, and they get extra cool perks and all kinds of cool stuff. But specifically, they get to cut the line on Fan Love Friday. They get all the interviews and all the content early, the albums early, and we get to do these big group Zoom calls where we talk face to face every Sunday night, and we talk about questions they have, different things that are going on. And so I thought, what better way than to kick it off. We're talking about this new Kanye West gospel album that's coming out. The headline, which is hilarious to me, because the headline, there was never an actual quote from anybody saying that this is a quote from Kanye, or this is a quote from anybody on his team. They just said Kanye music. Kanye's no longer making secular music, and Fox News is running with it. Double XL is covering it. Kanye is no longer a secular artist; he's a gospel artist. You got I just saw the Crew Hip Hop Corner, the shout out to the Crew Hip Hop Corner. They went a step further and said Kanye is now a part of Christian hip hop. Kanye joined CHH, and he's a CHH artist now, which I think is hilarious. And so I wanted to talk about this and break a couple things down for you guys, because I think there's a lot of just stuff kind of done for I don't know. I don't want to say clickbait, but definitely for clicks. Stuff that's not really being looked at holistically, and what is the history of what Kanye's been saying in terms of his actual position on things. And that what you're seeing is really just a manifestation of years and years and years in the making. Now, I think that in my opinion, if you're going to run with the headline like Kanye is now a Christian artist, or Kanye quits secular music, at the very least get a quote from Kanye or somebody on his team, first of all. Second of all, driving that wedge further between sacred and secular music, and just kind of rehashing that conversation, I think is unnecessary. First of all, Kanye has openly professed to be a Christian for as far back as I can remember in terms of Jesus walks. Now, was he exemplifying the values of being a Jesus follower in his art? Not really, right? Like there was a lot of glorifying of things that weren't godly in his art, and he always had this duality. Now, as of recently, he has been on a spiritual journey ever since getting married, having kids. Pastor Rich Wilkinson from the VU was the one who did his wedding, who has been mentoring and discipling Kanye for years. This is going back to 2013, 2014, around whatever time him and Kim got married. So this has been something that's been a process for him in years. And he's done multiple interviews where he's went on the record in interviews and said, hey guys, eventually I'm just going to make art for the church. That's where I want to land. 5-10 years, I'm just going to make art for the church. That's my big goal. That's the big plan. And he's been consistent about that. And so now you're seeing this Sunday service thing, and you're seeing a lot of misconceptions about that. You're seeing a lot of people saying, oh, Kanye's starting a church. Oh, Kanye's preaching at these things. He's not. Every single one of these, there's a local pastor. Again, there's a video Justin Bieber posted with Pastor Rich Wilkinson preaching. There's an article that Rapzilla just posted with a local pastor in Detroit who preached the gospel and did a 10-minute sermon. So this isn't a Kanye West service. This is Kanye throwing gatherings where he's highlighting his music and his spiritual journey, and he's getting people to come in and share. He's getting guest musicians sometimes. He has a choir, has a whole system. And here's the deal. What we are seeing is the overflow of something that a lot of people in Kanye's circle, people that I'm friends with, have been praying for decades. I'm close to someone that's been a part of the Sunday services, that's been produced and wrote on every Kanye record going back to 10 years. That's a very devoted follower. I'm actually trying to get him on to do an interview here on this channel. And he's been on the record that, man, Kanye's really trying to figure it out. This has been a long journey for him, so on and so forth. And so I think there's just a lot of misconceptions and a lot of just misinformation that's going on out there. And listen, you don't have to agree with Kanye about everything he believes or what his political ideologies are or any of that kind of stuff. The name of the person who has been mentoring him is Pastor Rich Wilkinson from the VU Church in Miami, Florida. That's the church that Marty from Social Club attends. That's the church that Ray Rock attends. That's the church my man Zach Wendell attends. Rich Wilkinson has been around for decades. He's the son of a pastor, and he is who did Kanye and Kim's wedding years ago. And so this is somebody that kind of runs in that those different circles of the Carl Lentzes and the Judah Smiths. He's in that kind of circle of people. And so that's been somebody that's been around him for, 3, 4, 5 years. And so I just think it's really interesting that, one, the stuff that I seen on Rapzilla specifically, I looked at the comment section and it was just heartbreaking because you had a bunch of people that didn't even go look at the article, that didn't even go look at the service, that didn't listen to what the message was being preached at the service. They just out the gate are lighting up Kanye because of his past, his checkered past, if you will. And then you have a bunch of people just leaving nasty stuff, being very reckless with what they're saying. And it's just an unfortunate thing, I think, that we're seeing exhibited in the Christian side and in the world side. I mean, imagine being the most famous person in the world. You get radically saved, and the world is calling you crazy and saying you're having a mental breakdown. And the church people are saying you're not Christian enough, and you're a demon, and you said this in this record 5 years ago, and you said this in this record 3 years ago, and now you aren't. You're not really devoted. You don't really know Jesus. And why are you trying to start a church? Why are you trying to be a pastor? He's not trying to be a pastor, guys. He is just sharing his journey. And so we're going to talk about it some more. I want to shout out all the people in the live. Do me a favor. Give this video a thumbs up if you can. That helps to drive up the algorithm inside of YouTube. I wanted to bring in some of my Patreon community, some of the brothers and sisters who rock with us heavy on Patreon. And I wanted to kind of get some of their input on some of these things. So we got people from all over the country tuning in live on Patreon. And there's a lot to discuss right now. I think it's a very interesting time. And we're also then going to pivot to some of their questions. We're going to talk about how to do live shows out of state. We're going to talk about how to support local artists. We're going to talk about how to set up your business. Is management necessary if you're an independent artist? We're going to get into all that probably for the next hour or so. And so who wants to chime in from the Patreon community? I'll bring you guys in and pin your video. We got I'd
love to chime in.
Okay, let me pin you here. Canvas, give me 1 second. All right, what's up, man? Introduce yourself. Where you from?
What's
what
up?
do you do? And do chime in, my G.
Yeah. I go by Canvas. I'm from Northeast Ohio. I'm 24 years old. Live here with my wife and run a business full time. And
you're an entrepreneur.
Music. Yes.
I love entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
Let's get it.
So I think the problem. I think this is a symptom of a greater issue to me, and it's one of the struggles I have as an artist, because as an artist we need to be on social media and engaging with people. I tend to be more of a recluse because I think, as we've seen with the Kanye issue, we live in a headline culture.
Yep.
Where people read headlines and they run with whatever they see. They don't dig in to find facts and find truth. And I think truth is not the norm anymore. And I think the second layer to that problem is negativity is always much easier to run with than positivity. Or even if the truth is just positive, or if it's just not even positive or negative, it's just the truth. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's always easier to paint somebody in a bad light, or paint them with ill intentions, or you look like a prophet. You look like it makes you look good when you're calling someone else out.
Yep.
And so it's kind of just a two-layer problem of, people read headlines, they don't dig for truth, they don't dig for facts. And it's kind of one of the reasons I'm not as active on social media as I should be, because I just get sick of reading all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to call something out. And the reality is, if we had a good look at their life the same way that, you know, if it was in the same spotlight as Kanye's life is, I'm sure we would find some things that, you know, we could paint in a negative light as well. So there's kind of a hypocrisy to it. There's a laziness factor because people don't go get the right information, and then there's just a, you know, I guess just an urgency to run with whatever the first story is. And so I think that's just kind of a symptom of just what our culture is right now. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, man, I think that's good, bro. I think you're totally spot on because what's happening is it is the negative press. Kanye denounces secular music, right? It is like, is that what he said? Because you got somebody that told you his last.
It gets clicks.
Yeah, it gets clicks. You got somebody that told you that The Life of Pablo was a gospel album. He's been calling him a self-professed Christian rapper for years, him and Chance. So it's just a very interesting dichotomy. But what Double XL decides to run with, what Fox News decides to run with, is Kanye denounces secular music. It is like, for real, is that what happened? Like he went on stage and denounced, because from everything I've seen, he doesn't talk at these things very often. These gatherings he doesn't really talk at them very often. There was a clip of him speaking for 7 minutes at the Atlanta church, who had a bunch of people in the audience. My man DJ Mike LV was there, What Up RG was there, and they were all tweeting about it. And they were like, he didn't speak that long, but when he spoke, he was very clear that he was about Jesus and he wanted to see Jesus glorified. And so I'm excited to hear this album. I think I'm most curious to see, is this album going to be clean? Like, is there going to be profanity on it? I'm kind of interested in that, because how gospel is he going to be? Is it just going to be an album that he still uses profanity on, and he shows the duality of his sinful nature and his, you know, his new spirit man? Is it going to be a straight gospel album? Is it going to be him rapping about Jesus on every record? I'm very curious. So that's coming out very soon. And I'm very curious. Anybody else from the Patreon Zoom call want to chime in? I would love to hear from you guys.
I'll say something.
Who's that? Jay Sandin?
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on. Let me pin you real quick, my G. All right. Go ahead, chime in.
Yeah. I actually go to the VU church. Which is
dope. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can speak up for Pastor Rich and let Cass know. I've heard Pastor Rich in person. I know we got a lot of mutual friends, and I've heard some great things. And when I've heard him preach, he's very solid.
Yeah. I mean, he's solid. I mean, before I even went to the church, I did my research, and yeah, he's pretty solid. I mean, I think when somebody's popular and they're associated with Kanye, you automatically think, oh, he's a heretic, a false teacher, but no, he's solid. So I actually heard some leaks from the album. And I don't want to give too many spoilers, but there's no cursing, and it's pretty Christ-centered, surprisingly.
Wow, really?
You know, it's very Christ-centered.
Wow.
You know?
Give some spoilers. Come on, man. I need the spoilers.
I would say that, yeah, bro, it's just imagine Twisted Fantasy mixed with Pablo, but just clean and like just completely talking about. I mean, it's full on Jesus. Like he's saying Jesus every other word, bro.
Really?
Like, yeah. Yeah. He's going full on in.
Does he officially denounce secular music? Like, is that ever a quote on the album?
No, not at all. But one thing that I did want to say, I think the thing with Kanye, I think everybody has like a love-hate relationship with Kanye.
Yeah.
Because Kanye, if you know him, he's a very sporadic person, and he goes off impulse and emotion. So I think even with last year, I mean, dude has an incredible interview with Charlemagne, and you know, it's dope. Like people are thinking like, oh man, we feel like we finally get it. And then the very next couple of days, he runs into TMZ and says slavery is a choice. Mm-hmm. So I think that the hesitation to kind of believe Kanye is kind of valid. And also he hurt a lot of people with that, you know, slavery is a choice comment. So like one of my closest friends was a huge Kanye stan. And, you know, since the TMZ thing, he's completely off it. And, you know, even with the whole Sunday service thing, he's like, man, I'm not going to believe it. Never going to listen to him again. And I'm done with him. So I think that, you know, for me personally, I mean, I'm still a Ye fan. Yep. You know, I feel like, you know, I've done and said things in my personal life that, you know, if recorded and had the level of claim and fame that a Kanye West, people will look at me like I'm crazy. To have more graceful. But I don't know, man. I feel like the hesitation is valid, but we have to wait and see for the final product.
Yeah, man. I'm seeing the comments. Hey, if you're in a Zoom call, please mute yourself if you're making noise in the background. Who is that? That is mad noisy.
That's me, bro.
Yeah, turn your camera on, Michael, and mute yourself, my G. What is your experience like being under Pastor Rich Wilkinson in terms of just attending the VU and all that kind of stuff?
Man, the VU Church is amazing, bro. I feel like, you know, I haven't heard a single sermon where it was like, man, like this isn't in the Bible. I think his theology is pretty sound. I think VU Church is a very diverse church. I mean, I go to church and I'm like, yo, this mug looks like heaven, bro. Like I'm literally in church service. One on my right is like a dude from the hood, and on my left is like a white girl that looked like she went to Harvard. You know,
yeah.
So it's very diverse. The leadership is amazing. The environment is friendly. They're heavy in the community work here in Miami, and it's pretty dope, man.
I love it.
It's pretty dope. Everything is done in excellence.
You know Ray Rock?
And Ray Rock?
Yeah, Ray Rock leads a small group. That's one of my good friends. He leads a small group.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Yeah, Ray Rock is a freaking legend. Hopefully I get to meet him.
Yeah, man. Okay, cool. Dope. Thank you for sharing that, bro. I appreciate that. I'm gonna ask you as a follow-up question. Michael, I see you got your hand raised. I'm gonna bring you in a second. Here's my follow-up question. Now, and I would love everybody to chime in who's in a Zoom call. This is bugging me, and I don't know if it should bug me, and I'm just in my feelings, but like this whole like, yo, Kanye's more Christian than the Christian rappers. Like, like this like Trump card to to try to shame the Christian hip hop community because now Kanye is rapping about Jesus more than the Christian hip hop thing. It just seems so toxic. Like it seems so toxic. Look, when you're Kanye and you or Chance and you've already established music and a reputation and art at an iconic level, you can rap about whatever you want to rap about. You can rap about poopity scoop. You know what I'm saying? And people gonna be like, yo, poopity scoop, it goes. Literally that happened. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I think that's just so shallow to be like, it's more Jesus centered than the Christian rappers. Like, come on, Blessings Report. Like, this is not helpful for anybody. I don't see the point of making a statement like that. You know, and Derek Minor and Andy Mineo were like, well, what's your definition of secular? And Derek Minor was like, yo, like, there's a big part of the community that gets shamed either way it goes. You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna get there's just a shaming happening either way it goes. I'm gonna pull up Derek's tweet because I think it's very interesting. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of that? Because I'm curious to see. Am I bugging for kind of being annoyed by that? By people who are like, ugh, it's more Christian than Christian hip hop. It is like, come on, fam. Here's Derek Minor's tweet. Derek Minor said, and y'all won't it says praying these Jesus lyrics stir up the kind of depth and directness we've lacked in Christian hip hop, right? And Derek Minor said, and y'all still won't appreciate it. Dudes rap about God directly, and it's corny or too direct. Dudes rap about God indirectly, and more about life, and it's not direct enough, and it's too worldly. Kanye or any celebrity raps about God in any type of way, and it's perfect. And I was just like, yo, that's perfect. Like, that is literally like where everybody's at. It's like anybody who's not a Christian says anything about God, and it's like, oh my gosh, revival. But then like you got people that have been putting on for so long, and no matter what they do, it's either too Christian or not Christian enough. And I'm just so irritated by that, man. So who else wants to chime in real quick? Michael, you ready to chime in?
Sounds good.
Okay, hold on. Did he lower his hand? I'm so confused. I'm just gonna bring you in, champ.
I'm still in. I had it up.
All right, what's up? What you think about all this, bro? You've been around CHH for a minute, so.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So praise God. I think one of the things that I've been stuck on is a verse actually that Bizzle dropped on as a feature on the Saga's track. Is the More Than This 2.0, and he's talking about this whole CHH thing and how he was tempted to leave it, right? the point why I'm bringing it up is he talks about how, you know, we as an audience, right, those that call themselves CHH fans, want to verify who can get in and who can get out. Like we're gatekeepers, right? Whether somebody's Christian enough.
Mm-hmm.
And one line that he said that stuck with me is talking about the secular cosign. It's like gold in CHH. Like you can make a dope verse with Andy, you can make a dope verse with Lecrae, and you might make Rapzilla, but you won't get on World Star or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But if Drake mentioned you or Chance, then you'll make it on Rapzilla, definitely, because that's a secular cosign would definitely get you on a CHH outlet and get CHH talking about you. So I think the real issue is, the real issue is what are we looking for as a body? What are we looking for as recognition, right?
Yeah.
All of this NFB, Chance the Rapper, #1 album in the country, and people started going nuts over this. Yep. And now we're getting articles in secular, quote unquote, secular outlets, and the Christian community is going nuts over this.
Yeah.
Like, what are we looking for as a Christian community,
right,
as far as recognition from the world? Are we trying to be a part? Are we trying to be in it and not of it? Or are we just trying to get a cosign so that we can, quote unquote, spread the gospel?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
That's really what I'm thinking about.
What else? Who else wants to chime in? Anybody else?
I have a question about that, because like,
hold on, let me pin you. Let me pin you. Give me 1 sec.
Okay.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Christian and not Christian rap for like 10 years now, and I still had yet to hear one single definition of what secular and Christian rap is.
Yep.
No one's ever defined it for me. Like, no one's said it. Like, who gets to decide what secular music and what Christian hip hop is, and like who? I still have yet to figure out what it is. I've not heard anyone define it, and that's the one thing that.
And who does it benefit? Who do those labels actually benefit?
Yeah, like because I have never once labeled myself a Christian rapper, but the label has been given to me many a time by many different people.
Yeah,
and I proudly, you know, proclaim that yes, I am a Christian, but like. Who is this council that has come together and decided that, like, oh, these people are secular, these people are CHH, you know, these people are, you know, are HHC, you know what I mean? Like, they're coming up with all kinds of terms that are just arbitrary, and the whole thing just seems arbitrary to me. It just seems all like it doesn't really exist, like it's made up, like it's a bubble, like we're just creating these boxes that don't really mean anything. And I don't mean to take shots at anybody, like I'm just confused from somebody who's just been a fan of all the music. You know what I mean? Because my brother's a record producer. My brother's not a Christian, but he's done record with Designer. Like, he's done records with, like, you know, big artists. Like, and I'm a fan of that music. So why can't I be a fan of that music and love a God Over Money album? Like, why can't I love both? And
you can.
And you know, and that's the thing. So why are we made to believe that we have to put our foot in one camp or the other?
Yeah, I'll tell you why.
Why do I have to be Republican or Democrat? Why can't I be an independent?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just the whole like it's like the whole politics thing all over again. So yeah, man. I'm sorry, I don't mean to rant, but I'm just confused.
You're confused.
No one's ever defined it. So
yeah, and
why do you feel no one's defined it?
I feel like the people who it benefits, and the Blessings report is in the live stream, and they just said it, the label benefits the Christian audience that are searching it out. Those labels eliminate the need to have to critically think and say what worldview is being presented in this art form. Is it a Christian worldview? Go listen to U2. U2 is not a Christian band, but U2 has worship songs on their records. U2 is unapologetically Christian, or 3 of the 4 members are. Bono has done more, work in terms of humanitarian stuff all around the world, and then won the Nobel Peace Prize. You know what I'm saying? And so U2 is like unapologetically Christian, but they are they're not a Christian band, and it's because their music is wide enough they can reach enough people. Now you have genres and labels. Why? Because people don't want to critically think and say, well, let me sit with this U2 album and let me actually listen critically. And specifically, parents who were checked out of music culture don't want to sit and critically process what their kids are listening to. So they just, historically, not today, historically, they would then go to the Christian bookstore and buy the Safe Christian CD. And so that is historically where that comes from. And then with Christian hip hop specifically, if you really want to talk about goofy labels and parameters and how much Jesus content or lack of Jesus content, with Christian hip hop specifically, Christian rappers have to overcompensate because initially the sentiment was, well, Christian hip hop is demonic. It's not just it's like devil filled. Rap is devil music, devil filled. So a lot of those guys, I don't know if it was consciously or unconsciously, I would guess both, but they had to be really overtly what the scriptures and the references of Jesus and like really rapping in that regard because they were going to get no traction. They weren't going to get their foot in the door. They weren't going to play at churches. They weren't going to get any support from any Christians. So they had to be overt with that. And there's also a cultural nuance, meaning that if you come from like a gang mob mentality, like a lot of the West Coast people come from, it is very much so like if you came from like rapping about your gang and your set, then guess what? You're going to pivot and you're going to rap about your new gang and your new set, which is Jesus and the church. You know what I'm saying? Which sounds really silly saying that out loud, but that is a lot of what I think happens is that historically Christian hip hop had to overcompensate. And so those lines are very silly lines, man. And I don't think they're as necessary as we think they are. I think they're more marketing terms to help people not have to critically think and to really monopolize and capitalize off of something that is an untapped industry. You know what I'm saying? Like Christian art is an industry, and you know, in other genres of music, it could be nuanced. In other parts of art, it could be nuanced. There could be multiple expressions, but for whatever reason, there's this Christian thing, and it's really, really ran by CCM, contemporary Christian music, white Christian music, if you will, worship music. That's really who runs it. And at some point, hip hop became acceptable in that world. Gospel has never really been acceptable in that world. And hip hop somehow by-stepped and went in, but they had to maintain this persona, you know? And so I think it's a very interesting conversation. Anybody else from the Patreon want to chime in? K9, I see you in the live stream. Hey, if you're watching this live, do me a favor, give this video a thumbs up. I would love for some of the Patreon folks to chime in, talking about God has become a moneymaker. Absolutely talking about God has become a moneymaker, doing what God says.
I jumped in on this.
Who's this?
Conscience.
Turn your camera on, Conscience.
I can't, bro. I'm gonna wreck some cars, man.
Come on, man. All right, fine. Go ahead and chime in. Go ahead and chime in, bro.
I just wanted to say one thing real quick. You had mentioned the scenario where Christians wind up having to go over on the deep end in terms of being theological or have Christian themes to stand out.
Right.
I think something that's even more toxic that I think the Christian community specifically has taken a super L on is quite the opposite of that. Not that what you said doesn't happen, because we've seen that happen for sure. But I think in the current times that we're in right now with CHH and people wrestling in and outside of that genre or near it, is that now, because of the label thing, since mostly younger cats are involved in CHH or godly oriented music, they're now starting to go to the extreme of doing, I don't want to say worldly things, but like they're doing extreme things in their music to like super stand out as not CHH. So like I think like, and the reason I say that, because a lot of times I hear cats and I feel like they do certain things and stunts lyrically and musically that I feel like they wouldn't really be experimenting with had they not been wrestling with trying to not be in the box. Like if they weren't wrestling with that, maybe the music would come out a little more authentically and naturally, and maybe we wouldn't even be in this scenario as deep as we are. But I feel like we just have a massive young generation who's like, I don't even want to sound any bit close to CHH. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to pick this style of music, so I just super stand out. And I think that some of the morale gets compromised in the midst of that.
Yeah, that's the yo-yo extreme, right? When you're demonized from one side, you're not accepted by the church, you're literally demonized by the church. You go to the opposite extreme where everything is about Jesus and scripture and theology. And then when that becomes too oppressive and that becomes cult-like, which it did, if we're going to be honest, 10 years ago, it was a lot of groupthink, a lot of cult-like mentality in Christian hip-hop. You yo-yo to the opposite extreme of let me get as far away from any of this as humanly possible, and neither side is healthy. Right, neither side is healthy. Here's something telling. Shout out to Roy Hernandez in the YouTube chat. He said most Christians I know won't listen to music that isn't labeled as Christian. If I were to bust out some hip hop that isn't explicitly mentioning Jesus, they always ask, "Is it Christian first before rocking with it?" What do you guys think about that? I feel like that's the revelation of a immature new Christian. If they're like so caught up by the label, you know what I'm saying, that they won't even listen to anything that isn't labeled explicitly Christian. I feel like that's a reflection of like, because here's the thing that frustrates me about that. I have no problem with people that say, I'm going to abstain from secular music. I think sometimes you got to go through seasons of that. But the issue that I have with that is that seldom is applied to, I'm not going to watch secular movies. I'm not going to watch secular TV shows. I'm not going to watch I'm not going to play secular video games. I'm not going to go on secular website. It's always compartmentalized to just music, and specifically just rap music. And I'm not saying that like you need to be riding around listening to the Migos. I don't listen to the Migos. Like I don't really listen to music that often, like unless it's my friends or someone new is coming out with something interesting. So my question is like, why do you guys think that is? Because I think that is some of what plays into the need to overcompensate and brand yourself as a Christian artist when again, who does that benefit? That benefits the industries created around Christian music. And Joshua just said discipleship has become a lost art. So maybe because people aren't getting discipled in their local churches, they're looking at their Christian rappers and they're looking at their Christian music to disciple them. But it's like, bruh, I'm not discipling you through an album. Like, it's not happening. Like, I'm doing my best to hold it down with loving the people in this Patreon community, loving my friends, loving my family. I'm not discipling you through a Christian rap record. I'm not, and that's what kind of it becomes. It's like, oh, I get my theology from Christian rappers. I get my discipleship from Christian rappers. It's like, chill, my G. Go to a local church.
Call you rabbi?
Say it again.
So we can't call you rabbi?
No, you definitely can't call me rabbi. Definitely can't call me rabbi.
That's hilarious. I think there is something.
Hold on, let me pin you. Let me pin you real quick. Okay, there you are. Go ahead.
Hey, I think there is something to say about that, though. I know people don't. Rappers don't want to be seen as pastors, but you are spreading a message.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, you said it. People are in different stages of their walk.
Yes.
You know, because when I decided to like go all in for Jesus, I did. I went crazy. I threw away
all your CDs.
I went nuts. Get it out. I'm out.
Yeah. And we've all done that. Like we've all done that, right?
Yeah.
To some degree.
I did not.
I did. I got rid of my cable. Threw out all my DVDs, CDs, all that kind of stuff. But you know, it was good for me to do that until I got into a level of maturity where I was getting proper discipleship and learning how to read my word and learning how to decipher things on my own. So I think it's stages.
That's
but
good.
The thing is, people are coming into Christian hip hop and at different times.
Yep.
So you're looking at it because you've been in this thing for a long time.
Right.
But you got to think there's people just now learning about Christian hip hop today.
Yep.
Or tomorrow that don't know where to start. You know, like I think I've been really engrossed in it for like the last 5 years or so. But before then, you know, I had given up all of it. And then I started sliding again and started listening to some stuff. And then I end up on Pandora, heard a song that said Jesus. And I was like, wait, did he say Jesus? And from there, I just went nuts. I don't know if it was Lecrae or if it was Bizzle or Thizzle, one of them. But from there, I found out about everybody and I started doing research. Who's the artist? Where they at? What's going on? You know, and it takes time.
Yep.
So I'm just saying it can get toxic, it can get crazy.
Yeah.
But we have to realize it's because people are coming in this thing every day.
Yep.
And they don't know where to start. And they're coming in different stages of their Christianity and also just into CHH as a whole.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Does anybody else want to chime into that?
Well, I think there's something really important about what she said. Notice she's talking about her lifestyle. We've now gone outside of the music. So this is why this is a big issue that should be wrestled with. The reason why we struggle with this conversation is because the things that rappers say and do in the culture and music have implications about what the Christian life means. And so because of that responsibility and the weightiness of what we're dealing with, people are getting assumptions and implications by the type of music that people puts out in such a way that as a fan, if I'm supporting something, my homie next to me might not feel encouraged that I'm living in a certain way that would be fruitful to him based off of the type of music I listen to. Now, it's just a fraction of indicators of where somebody's at spiritually. And I don't think we need to get that deep with it. But I think the thing that she brought up that's so important is that this issue is affecting lives because it's creating mindsets and categories of acceptance for certain lifestyles that we need to put in question and validate whether certain things you say and certain cultural acts are fruitful and God glorifying. And so we need to take each circumstance and song and artist, and you can't just look at an artist's lifestyle entirely based off the music, but people have conversations with music that affects their personal life. And we got to kind of take it at a case by case basis to examine what stuff is fruitful, what stuff should be admired or rejected, different things like that. So we can't just minimize it so much to not be a big deal, because clearly if we're all having a conversation about lifestyle and it started with music, then there's much bigger implications at stake.
Yeah, and let me just chime in and say this. I would say that I don't know of anybody that's getting saved, getting discipled, and they need to be told to not listen to secular music. Like if you're actually I feel like I watch I'm friends with Pastor Lindsay, who's the youth pastor, junior high and high school pastor at our church. Like what he's doing is he's taking these kids, he's loving them, he's discipling them, he's taking them to Christian concerts. But I don't think there's this conversation of you got to go in and delete all your Spotify playlists. That's all the secular stuff, right? Like I don't think that's a conversation that's happening. But to me, what's interesting is I think that's so personal. Like, I think that's such a personal thing that Shannon went through, that I've gone through, where all right, I'm just going to get rid of all this stuff for now, maybe forever. Why? Because I really need to meditate, right? And put my mind on heavenly things, right? And do that. I think my only issue with that is that is such a personal thing that God may reveal to you for a season, right? My only issue with that is then when you start taking that and leveraging that as a standard for an entire community or an entire subgenre of music, that's when it becomes legalism. That's when it becomes not just a personal conviction. It's like y'all all know, we all know that one vegan person who will see you eating a turkey burger and be like,
CrossFitter.
You're eating, or CrossFitters. CrossFitters are the worst. Vegan, right? It's such a groupthink mentality of look, there's nothing wrong with being vegan. If you want to give up meat forever, that's on you, my G. There's nothing wrong with doing CrossFit. There's nothing wrong with whatever. But when you start taking these personal things and you start using them as absolute standards, and now everybody absolutely has to give up meat, and everybody absolutely has to give up secular music or whatever, fill in the blank, right? That's when it becomes toxic and legalistic. And unfortunately, yes, I've been around this thing for a long time. Unfortunately, this has been the pattern in Christian music, Christian hip hop. That it just is what it is, and it bums me out, and I wish it wasn't so. So then when we see this cultural thing happening of a Kanye who's having this faith journey and trying to figure it out, and it's just one or two extremes. He's trying to be a pastor, or you know he's not really saved, or he denounced secular music and he's now a Christian rapper and CHH artist and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, man, like, let the man live. Like, we're all on a journey. It's all a process, and we all have to figure that out. So does anybody else want to chime in? I don't want to spend too much more time on this because I know we got other questions.
I wanted to throw one bomb in there though.
Okay. I'm trying to pin your video. It's not letting me. Hold on, give me 1 sec.
Okay. I wanted to throw one bomb in there because we're having this conversation, and don't get me wrong, I'm at a place now where I love it all. I can do the super theological, Christ-centric, you saying Jesus every other word songs, all the way to you don't even mention Jesus, but I understand the worldview. Like, I'm down with it all. But I do notice as some artists have progressed that their music changes, and then we get that awkward tweet where they're like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm going my own way. I'm not a Christian anymore. Forget all y'all.
Yeah.
You know, so we want to be accepting of the more, I don't know, what can you say? Like, I'm looking for a word, but you know, the more
less gospel explicit.
Rap, the less theological rap, or the ones that's trying things that's a little more close to secular hip hop. But then it's hard because that next album they might fly off the handle, and then what?
Yes. So here's then what. So that is a great point, Shannon. So this is what I would say. I've seen, and I don't want to throw names under the bus, but I've seen the most explicitly churchy Christian rappers walk away from the faith and denounce the faith. So
happens on both sides.
Both sides. So I think to say, well, it's only the lifestyle guys. Yeah, that does happen. And some of them legitimately walk away from the faith. Some of them have a faith crisis and deconstruct their faith, which, you know, I've talked about that at length. And others walk away from the title Christian hip hop, but are still Christians. That also does happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll tell you guys right now, like Foggy Raw is a good, dear friend of mine. The Christian rap community is 50-50 on Foggy Raw. I know that Foggy Raw loves Jesus. I know that Foggy Raw is in a church. I know his devotion to the Lord, right? But he's intentional about, I'm not playing by your rules, Christian rap. I don't care. Don't support me. That's very calculated on his part. And I commend that because he's fearless in that. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's a very touchy thing. I feel you. It's when people walk away from the faith in general, it's super touchy. It's super complicated, super hard. I've had close friends to me that have done wild triv stuff, you know what I'm saying? And I've seen it happen over and over. Not just music, like I'm talking marriages fall apart. You know what I'm saying? Like horrible things happen. And so I think, yeah, that's just unfortunately, I guess one of the byproducts of life, where I hate to even like minimize it in that regard. So I feel you. I just think that you know, I don't want to throw any names under the bus, but there was a majorly popular, explicitly churchy Christian rapper from another continent that like completely denounced the faith and walked away. And he had all the right scriptures and the right theology, and he walked away. You know what I'm saying? And it's a bummer, you know? So does anybody else want to chime in before we move on?
Can I respond to what Shannon said real quick?
Yes. Hold on. Let me pin you. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here. I'm doing a lot. I got the comments section going.
You're working, man.
You guys are killing it right now with chiming in. This is really good stuff.
All right. So Shannon, you made a comment about like artists, their music changes, you know, and I think that's a really, that kind of struck a chord with me, because I feel like, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I've seen people get upset when artists' music changes. And when I think about music changing, you know, it's kind of obvious to me, because I'm like, yeah, the music changes because the artist changes. You know, we go through seasons in life, and, you know, I'm 24 right now, and the music I made a couple of years ago is different from the music I made today. And I'm assuming it's going to be different from whatever I'm going to make 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And I would hope it'd be different, because, you know, we go through seasons. I don't have kids yet. You know, I'm going to have a family down the road. I'm going to just be in a different stage of life. And so the content is going to change. Maybe I'll go through, you know, God forbid, a really, really rough season. And maybe I'll go through some bad trials. And my music is going to reflect that, the good, the bad, the ugly. If you just want to see the good parts in my music and me to just, and I'm not coming at you, Shane. I'm not saying you're saying this, but this is just what I've seen in other camps. Like, if you just want me to put the highlights in there and give you the good stuff and act like everything's peachy, sorry, not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, my music's going to reflect everything. And the second thing I would say is, I think the moral of the story to all this, like, if we had to sum it up in one line, I think Ruslan already said it. Like, let people live. Like, let people live. Like, let people live. Love God, love people. Those are our 2 commandments. You know, get your spiritual food from your church, not your artists, not anybody else, not celebrities.
Yes.
Get plugged into your local church. Are you serving? Are you serving in a ministry? Are you involved? Are you in discipleship? Are you in community groups, like small groups? Get involved in all that stuff. And maybe you won't have so much time to go and criticize people on Twitter. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying, again, none of this is at anybody. I'm just saying, like, it's just so many frustrations that, like, just let people live. Let people live their lives. We're complicated. We don't give people room to be complicated and to grow and to go through seasons.
Yep.
And we expect this consistency. So anyway,
you're about to lose your CHH audience now, bro.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Let me just chime in and say this. And then I'm gonna bring you in. I see Kid Snow, you got your hand up. I didn't even know we got this hand up feature. So I'm gonna bring you in. But like, this is what I would say. I would say this. I would say, because who you are at 19 and 20 isn't going to be who you are at 25. And because who you are at 25 may not be who you are at 30, I would almost beg of you to not jump out the window and make a Jesus is the best forever, and if I say something else, kill me, whatever. Like, I almost wish you don't do that. I almost wish you don't say something crazy like that just to get the Christian behind you, because who you are in 3, 4, 5 years may be somebody different. I almost rather wish you just share it. God's revealing himself to me. I'm wrestling with this. I'm processing this. It's hard right now. I'm trying to figure it. Like, I almost wish you do that instead of jumping out the window and doing that, because I mean, Lecrae said it, like, and Lecrae is like, I love Lecrae, but he said the line that I'm sure he doesn't perform anymore, and I'm sure it's a tough line to think back. Lord, kill me if I don't preach the gospel. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, the music didn't preach, and people were like, how could you say it? You know what I mean? And so I think it's tough.
Preaching the gospel?
I think he's preaching the gospel. I'm saying that's the pushback. That's the pushback. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I'd rather you just be authentically who you are, and then if something happens or there's a transition or your theology changes, that's cool. What we're seeing, in my opinion, the reason why people are walking away from the faith is because they're bought into a fundamentalism that gives you all the answers to all the questions of the universe, and then when one of those answers doesn't line up with logic or science or your own experience, then the entire framework falls apart. And so people then deconstruct their faith and walk away from Jesus, when it's really like, you really just shouldn't have bought into that much dogma. Like, you really should have just held on to a couple truths. Jesus is Lord. Jesus rose from the grave. God created, I'm born again, Holy Spirit's real. Like, literally, I believe like those 3 or 4 things. That's it. I don't got the answers. I don't know about dinosaurs. Don't ask me about dinosaurs. I don't know about dinosaurs. Like I don't know how many years how old the earth is. I don't know. I got some ideas. You know what I mean? And so I think that to me is the funny part in terms of how extreme people go. Who wants to chime in? Kids know you want to chime in real quick?
Yeah, let me this is crazy, man. I love this conversation, by the way. Just a disclaimer of where I am. I'm actually in Chicago right now. But I wanted to explain something. So I'm currently one of the musicians at my church. And today I was with the youth group, and I was explaining to them, I was letting them know, like, hey, we want to make sure that during the service that we're playing stuff that is actually going to encourage, that's going to impart into the kids. So we were playing, like, the normal Christian hip hop, and one of the kids turned on something that was like pop music.
Yeah.
And I asked the question, like, yo, is this person Christian? Like, not if they're a Christian artist. I asked if they were a Christian, and they couldn't answer my question. So I was like, okay, well, as far as right now, because of the fact that we only have an hour, try to switch it to something else, and then we'll figure out who this artist is later. Yeah. I think that the thing about the whole culture is, with the whole headline thing, we have a consistency of wanting to get straight to the point without doing the work, or even trying to listen to what the artist has to say in their music. So being able to say, oh, well, you know, Kanye is now a Christian hip hop. First of all, obviously someone in the Patreon community said like, yo, he's speaking explicitly about Jesus, like he's being very Christ-centered. But first of all, y'all didn't even hear about the album yet. Y'all didn't even let it release before y'all said anything.
Yeah.
So at this point, you just judging it because you want to be able to say, oh, well, we already know what Kanye about to do before you even do it.
Yeah, you want him on your team. You want him on your team, really.
Right. Like, let the man move. And I think someone else said like we never give a artist time to grow, and that's that. I think that as humans, period, we have this thing where we don't like to be consistent, especially with someone else's process. And then we expect that grace and that mercy on our artistry, on our life, on whatever process we're doing. We expect it to be for us because we need it, but we don't be considerate of someone else's process.
That's good.
So I think at that point, even if we just simply looking at albums and stuff like that, I feel like we should actually give that same mercy and grace and time with artists that we love so that we can understand who they are and what they're about.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. All right.
Hold on. That brother preaching gospel right now.
What'd you say?
So that brother just preached gospel right now.
He did. All right. Anybody else want to chime in on this before we move on?
I just wanted to say to his point, artists need to, or I would like artists to do that more to make themselves more known and not be closed off to where we do understand where they're going in their process.
Yeah.
I really appreciate like Tadashi, you know, when he lost his son and he went through that and he went through a dark period and all of that, but we were aware of what was going on with him. We was able to pray for him and rock with him and you know, still support him throughout that whole time period because he was transparent.
Yes.
But when you closed off and you know you don't say anything and we don't know what's going on with you, we don't know. And sure, that person is supposed to be connected to their local church and be discipled and loved on from their local church.
Yep.
But we are all Christians, right?
Yep.
We are the body of believers as a whole, right? So tell us something.
Yep.
Let us know.
Yep.
Hey, I'm really struggling right now.
Yeah.
And then I may not know you, but at least I can pray for you.
Yes.
You know,
That's
tell
a
me
good
something.
point.
Well,
that's all I have to say.
But there's been a problem with that in the track record of what people deem CHH. There's been a problem with that. When you start revealing your flaws, you're not being Christian enough, or you're not grounded enough. All of a sudden, it's looked at as a bad thing. That's like brothers who admitting that they're struggling with porn or they had infidelity in a marriage. That those are like obscene, horrible sins. They're worse than everything else. That's unbelievable. But then the pastor that's suffering from depression, he also cannot share that he's suffering from depression because he's the pastor. He needs to be strong for the flock and for the sheep. So for artists to be completely transparent, really has to come from the personality of the person. Some people are introverts, some people are extroverts. So to kind of say, hey, share everything that's going on with your life so we can at least know what's going on in your growth and progression as an artist. That's difficult to blanket statement that for everybody. Makes sense?
That's good. That's good. That's good.
I also don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair that we require artists to be like pastors, because what we're doing is we're saying, okay, you're a Christian artist, you're ministering to me, so we want to know what you're going through. But then when you're going through something personal and you're still living through it, it's not fair for us to charge people to do that, because you might go through something now and in 10 years finally be strong enough to talk about it. But they should not be tried in a court of public opinion. And I think that's what a lot of times we do.
Yeah.
We take a lot of Christian hip hop artists and we're just like, oh, well, they went through this, so now they're no longer Christian. But the fact is, they're still going through their process. Like the artists who did walk away from the faith, they have their process to go through still, because it's not just about the fact that they walked away now. We don't know what the end is for them. Well, we end up trying them so harshly. Like I've seen artists in the past couple of years walk away from not just the faith, but from Christian hip hop. And it scared me how, as a community, we responded, and the love is gone. So as an artist, I could imagine why people would flinch to be like, I'm struggling with pornography or depression, or me and my wife had couple of years where we were just not being faithful to each other, because the way we treat other artists who fall, it doesn't encourage that breeding ground of security, saying, yo, if you fall, we will support you as a community.
True.
That's good.
Something else that I feel like this kind of speaks more to our view of celebrity culture. I don't know that it's necessarily a fans. I don't know that it's necessarily a fans that artists deserve, or the artists owe fans an explanation of their inner depths of their life, depending on how they have positioned their music. Because like, yes, I feel like the people that personally know them, they should probably be more open with. But like when it comes to like fans and celebrity culture, sometimes I feel like we forget that like we don't actually know these people.
That's good.
Like we just feel like we know them because we hear their music.
Yep.
And because they're in our cars with us when we go to work, and we feel like we have a personal connection with them. So they don't I wouldn't say that they necessarily owe us an explanation. However, I do think that depending on how they have positioned themselves in their music, that's when it's kind of like maybe they should be a little bit more open, because some artists have been like open with like certain things about their life and their struggles. So then if you find out that there's just this super crazy struggle that they just kind of like didn't talk about, that might seem a little bit weird and off brand for them. But like there are some artists like in the Christian world too, that like we don't know a single thing about their personal life. They just make the music, and the music is all we know about them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I think good art is polarizing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's facts. Like I remember Jay-Z said on Breakfast Club, they asked him about Yeezus, the Kanye album, and he was like, good art is polarizing. Like, you know, that's what art does. It polarizes people, and people get on different sides of camps, you know, when they interpret the art. Like I just learned 2 days ago not to read raps off my phone. You think I'm going to be an expert at making the right kind of content? Like I just learned that 2 days ago. Like so we're all still figuring this thing out, man. Like just it's a process. It's not an overnight thing, and don't expect it to be. So
that's good.
No, I agree with that.
Bruce, I know you're trying to move on. I think one thing I didn't want to let go is probably from like the second chime in, but looking at it from a Christian worldview, right, from a biblical perspective, I think there's a big issue with the convolution of two main verses. People, one, want to know them by their fruit, and we take overzealous ownership of that.
Yeah.
We take overzealous ownership over determining people's fruit. That's one. And two, what does going back to the definition of what is sacred and what is secular, right? What did Jesus actually say when he was saying, you know, or rather the apostles, when they were quoting the teachings of Jesus and when they were sharing with the early believers, when they were saying not to be conformed to the pattern of the world, when they were talking about a mindset, when they were talking about a way of thinking, when they were talking about a system, why do we automatically translate that to labels?
Yep. Yeah.
Like this is sacred, this is secular. So that's like, okay, I can't drink Welch's grape soda. That's secular, right? I shouldn't be eating McDonald's. I can only eat Chick-fil-A.
You shouldn't eat McDonald's.
Right? I know why I shouldn't. But from a Christian worldview, right? It's a personal conviction thing versus what covers the whole body. So it goes back to discipleship, right? It goes back to level of maturity, and why, as believers and as body, me included, because I can get judgmental depending on what my bias is, right?
Yeah.
Why do we feel like we have to take full ownership over determining the fruit of someone else?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I'll say this before we move on, because I think we do need to move on. I would just say this. I would say, man, there are certain things that if you find out a certain thing about a celebrity, a Christian, a pastor, that to you may not be forgivable. You know what I'm saying? Like to you just may, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that, and that's okay. Like that is okay. If you, like I grew up, my mom experienced domestic violence. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I remember when the Chris Brown and Rihanna thing happened 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't the biggest Chris Brown fan, but guess what? that made me not like him even more. And I don't really care what he does. I'm probably not going back to that. You know what I'm saying? And so when you're talking about rappers Christian or not Christian, like there could be certain violations for you as a consumer that you just are not okay with. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yo, like this dude could confess to this and this, and I just can't rock with it anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that too is also okay. I think we just major in the minors and we minor in the majors a lot of times. We'll overlook the big things and we'll freak out over the little things. So-and-so took a picture with Lil Uzi Vert. Don't they know that Lil Uzi Vert stands for Lucifer and now he's pledging his soul? And then we just completely dismiss a rapper because of a picture. But then, you know what I'm saying? Like I just think this.
Because that's the fruit. Because that's the fruit. That's why we're judging that fruit.
Yeah, but that's not. We're judging the fruit of a picture. Like we're amplifying something that's not actually fruit. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like me taking a picture with fill in the blank of the most ratchet, depraved rapper is not my fruit. So people keep saying this about Kanye. What about the fruit? Where's this fruit, bro? Come, where's Kanye? Kanye got married. Do you guys understand who Kanye was before he was married? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He got married as one of the most famous people in the world. He got married. He started a family. You know what I'm saying? Like he stopped running around and cheating on his wife and on his girlfriend. Like, how is that not fruit? You know what I'm saying? So I think we just major in the minors, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like when I found out Kanye was getting married, I was like, man, that's pretty fantastic. Goodness gracious, he's getting married. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, monogamous.
Yeah, and he's monogamous. Praise God for that. All right, let's